There's,
Yeah.
unfortunately, you can't think of anyone that hasn't been affected directly or indirectly. It's everywhere. So how do you reconcile being given a second chance when there's all this grief around you and all this sadness around you? So when I see people die the moment they're diagnosed, people, and this isn't a judgment on anyone, but because I was like that too. I heard that word and I thought, okay, my life is over. This is it. That's it for
Mm.
me. I'm gonna, in your head, you do think of. I was young though. I was 24, so I didn't really have much of a life. Like I wasn't married yet. I had no kids. I was kind of like not a loser, but I was like I had no direction. Like I was lost. I was neither here nor there. I kind of floundered around a bit. I was screwing off, and like so I didn't really have and that was the sad thing though, is that I might die next year and I have nothing to show for. I have no legacy. I've made no impact on this earth.
Unleash the untapped potential within you as we dive fearlessly into the realms of healing, personal growth, self-love, and uncharted territories of the human experience. Join us as we navigate relationships, conquer career and business milestones, and explore the depths of spirituality. This isn't just a podcast, it's a manifesto for the resilient, the ambitious, the soul-searching women and men of today. Grab your coffee and let's dive in with Beyond the Surface. All right, welcome back to another episode here on Beyond the Surface. And today I am joined by a dear friend, Natalie. I am so happy and excited to dive in and have you here. Thank you, first and foremost, for being here. I so appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so happy and honored that you asked me, and I can do this and talk to you. This is awesome, so thank you.
So, a little bit of backstory. Me and Natalie have entered each other's worlds through the Studio Press, which is the self-publishing agency that I run, and she was part of our last collective voices experience. And so, first and foremost, Natalie, I would love for you to just share a little bit about you. And that, I know that's such a loaded question, but I trust whatever is meant for you to share, that you want to share, of who you are, so people
Mhm.
can somewhat get the essence of who you are, because everyone is in for a treat. You're going to laugh probably in this episode. Who knows if we might cry, but I know you're going to laugh.
Now you're setting me up for this. You're gonna disappoint all these people now.
No.
Uh, well, I'm Natalie, and I'm just a regular person. I'm like everybody else. I'm approaching middle age, pushing 50, and teacher. I'm a mother. I'm a wife, and I'm just like everybody else. I'm just trying to understand what life's about, and I've been through a lot of things, like a lot of people have, and I struggle with a lot of things like a lot of people have. And you think you're alone, and you just feel like you're the only one, and you have all this weight on your shoulders. But then you just start talking, you start putting ideas, you start talking to people, and you realize that it's time to start stepping into what you've been meant to do. You just have to wait for that time. And the last couple of years especially have been really wacky, to say the least, because of all the stuff that was going on in the world, and everything kind of stopped, right? Everything paused. And so we had all this time. Everybody had all this time to think about all these things. And while a lot of people were struggling, it didn't really phase me that much, because this has already happened to me before. So I kind of tapped into that past experience, and everybody was all scared and, oh my God, what's going on? What are they doing to us? And I thought maybe this is God's way, or the universe's way of stopping us. Because how many times do we say, oh, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. Oh, I wish I didn't have to go to work tomorrow. And that's what happened to, like,
A
literally
lot of
millions of.
us.
And we were literally grounded, and we paused. We couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't do anything. So that kind of was sort of like where everything kind of started for me to think, you know what? Why am I wasting all this time? What's wrong with me? Why am I'm the way I am? And then all these little things started happening that kind of pushed me closer and closer to finally start taking those little steps. It's that one step. It's that one little step, and it starts that momentum. And then, you do this, and then you do that, and then I meet you, and I meet her, and it just starts. And the more you put out, the more you get back. So,
Mm. I
um,
have chills. I have
right,
chills because I think that's so accurate. Is at least I can speak to a feeling very similar, is that when you have that moment of kind of clarity, almost of claiming, maybe even, or putting it out into the world, even if you never told anyone, but you kind of put out into the universe,
right,
this is what I want to do, like this is what I've always wanted to do. And I truly believe, whatever you believe in, the universe, God, whatever it is, conspires to make that happen for you. It
100%.
it's just a matter of declaring that.
That's it.
It's,
That's it.
I want to do this, and then
That
they're like, "All
action.
right,
That's it.
you said you want to do this.
It's
I'm
in the
gonna
Bible, right? It's like
bring the
I'm
people."
not a Bible thumper type person, but it's literally like, ask and you shall receive. Like, you just have to
Yes.
ask. A friend of mine, an old friend of mine, told me the best advice I've ever been told. To this day, I still quote. I even tell my kids, and he's one of the. He's referenced in my chapter too. He told me the best thing. He said, if you want to eat, you have to open your mouth, which is an old Italian. It makes more sense in Italian. It loses the translation in English, but to me, that is what life is all about. You have to
Mhm.
put yourself out there and speak and advocate and self-advocate. And many of us, especially women like that had immigrant parents, that
Mhm.
upbringing, that mentality, we were not only told we couldn't speak, it was expected of us not to speak.
Yeah.
And that's not fair, right? Especially when you have something you want to share that you feel so from the bottom of your heart you could help somebody, and you're holding on to it because you're afraid of that, you shouldn't speak, and what are people, and then there's a whole, like, what are people going to say, and who do I think I am, and there's all those mind games that go on. But it's
Mhm.
like you said, stepping into it, claiming it. This is and then this is what I want, and then you have to act on it, right? You can wish and manifest and pray and all that, but then you got to take action. And that's, I think, for a
Mhm.
lot of us, me myself included, for 20 years, almost, you kind of just, it's, you say it, but then you don't do it. And so I
Yeah.
think the pandemic, or just getting older, or seeing my children get older, it now I'm pushed, and now I'm starting, and the more I start, that one little step led to another step, another step, another step, and then here we are, and I'm just surrendering to that power to take
Yeah.
me where I am meant to be. And right now we are meant to be talking together. So, and
Mhm.
it's always coming from an authentic place to just share and to hopefully help someone else, inspire someone else, and just connect with someone else. I love people. I love connecting with people. I love talking to people. So this is just like almost a dream come true that this is all happening. So thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Of course, of course. And it, truthfully, it's always been something that just like fuels my own soul, is just being able to be in conversation with people and give people a space to share their story, not
Right.
only just the side of the not just the writing side of it, but it's also the speaking of it too, the speaking out loud, and this platform as well.
Right.
I think I'm also just witnessing how, of course, it makes sense that I have a podcast and I run the self-publishing. It's because I want to give people that space because of the power that comes when we tell our stories, when we step into, like you said, coming from a place of serving people in a way where it's, yes, it's, there can be a lot of fear around sharing your story, 100%.
Hmm.
And I know you had a lot of fears as you were writing and being part of the collective voices experience, and there was your own fears that you had to move through. But on the other side of it is like this sense of liberation, especially when you get one person who simply says, "Thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for putting your words into the world because it's helped me in some way, shape, or form." And so, before we kind of dive into your story of what you kind of wrote in Collective Voices and in the book, To Breathe Again,
Hmm.
I would love for you to also just talk about kind of like the before, right? Like, how did you land to say, you know what? I'm going to do this thing. I'm going
Ah,
to write my story in a book. Like, what
that's
was
it.
those steps? And maybe even too, what were the fears that were coming up for you?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know. There wasn't like one moment where, like, I can't remember a specific moment where I said, okay, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I was like, oh, I swore. Oh, okay, see, I
It's
told
okay.
you I was gonna swear. I'm so okay. I'm getting better. It was like, yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna write it. You know, and then I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was, but the person that connected us, it was, I don't, can I say her name?
Yeah, of course.
It was Jacqueline. Yeah, it was
Yes.
Jacqueline. It was so her. Okay, so it's sad, but it's like also very inspiring. And again, it was like a good kick in the ass for me to stop wasting time. And it was
Mm,
at her father's funeral, and it was such a sad day. You know, a lot of grief. He was the nicest guy, right? But there was so much joy in that day because his life was so much.
mm,
It was such a celebration of his life, and so it was a really sad day. A lot of grief, a lot of heaviness,
of course.
but at the same time, there was so much joy, and I was so happy I knew him, and he was such a great guy, and it was this beautiful energy. So I literally felt that day. I don't know what it was, but something about that day. I went home. I felt lighter, even though it was heavy. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna do something. I'm gonna start. I'm not wasting any more time. I've already had many experiences with my mortality. I'm just gonna start. Um, and but it even went back even a year before that, almost exactly a year before that. I gave a speech. My brother got married, and I gave a speech. Like everybody gives a speech when their sibling gets married. I don't know what it was about that night. It felt so empowering and joyful to go up in front of people, and I just shared a few stories about my brother. And but it was, but people came up to me and said, "Oh my God, that was so great. That was amazing. I loved hearing those stories, and you were so funny. But it was lighthearted, and but I did kind of roast him a little bit." And I had people, I had people coming up to me, like the bartender came up to me and said, "I've been doing this job a long time, but that was like my top third speech in 15 years."
Oh,
All
cool.
these people, and I don't know if they said that to everybody, but I had guests there, like guests. I didn't know who they were.
Hmm.
Oh, can you come take a picture with me? Can you come dance with me? These two women took me in the photo booth, took a picture of me, and then they put me. I ended up on my mother's fridge with these ladies, and my mom says, "Who are these ladies?" I said, "I don't know." These ladies asked me to take a picture. I was talking to all these people because it was one thing to say to my family, like, "Okay, you make sure you clap," and because I told them to be
Yeah.
nice, but strangers, the photographer, all these people. So and then a whole year went by, and then there was
Mhm.
the funeral, and then I said, you know what, I need to do something. I need to get this out. And
Mhm.
CV, through Jacqueline, we connected, and then we were going to start that summer, that fall, and then there was a delay, and then there was a delay, and there was a delay, and then I thought, okay, you know what, maybe, all right, and then they start playing the mind games. Okay, maybe this isn't gonna okay, maybe there's a sign, and you just have to, things happen when you're ready. If this was a couple years ago, I don't think I would be ready to even do this. Something like this would cause massive anxiety to put myself
Mhm.
out, write a personal chapter about my life. And now I thought, okay, it's gonna be a one time thing. Now I want more. Now I have all these ideas, and as we've talked, I have more projects that I want to do. And but I have a job and I have a family, so how am I going to do that? And
Yeah.
embracing the identity of a storyteller. But I guess I was always a storyteller. I just never
Mhm.
really made it official.
Oh, it gives me such goosebumps, and it's funny. It's funny how when you just follow breadcrumbs, like that's what I've always called it. I've always just followed these little breadcrumbs.
Mhm,
Opportunities are presented, you say yes because you feel aligned, you feel like a huge gut yes to say yes to it, and it
mhm.
may not make sense, but it will eventually, and
Right.
the puzzle piece starts to come together. And you did talk a little bit about, you kind of mentioned, you slipped in there that you've had those experiences with your own mortality. And when I was just like re-looking at your chapter, there was something very interesting that I noticed. And I'm going to read like two very short lines. It's
Oh,
just very interesting. And I'd love for you to just talk about this. And I feel like this will also allow us to like dive into more of your story and what you actually wrote about. But you talk about this is what you said. Some people die precisely the moment they are diagnosed. I feel like I came to life. And then you also talk about how um, you've also been scared of living ever since. So
Mhm.
I'd love for you to share more about your story, obviously, and your journey, and also those moments. Like, what does that, like, the story behind both of those, of feeling like you came to life in a moment of being diagnosed with cancer, which you'll
Right.
dive into,
Right.
but also then being afraid to live as well. Like, the polarity of both of those is
It's a
so
yeah,
interesting to me.
yeah, it's a weird thing. It's I didn't even know it was a thing. It's survivor's guilt. I didn't even know it was a thing, and
Yeah.
that's what I've been plagued with all these years. I still kind of am sometimes, especially when I go to funerals where the person passed away from cancer. It's not a topic that
Mm,
I can get away from because you hear about it all the time. There's
yeah.
unfortunately, is you can't think of anyone that hasn't been affected directly or indirectly. It's everywhere. So how do you reconcile being given a second chance when there's all this grief around you and all this sadness around you? So when I see people die the moment they're diagnosed, people, and this isn't a judgment on anyone, but because I was like that too. I heard that word and I thought, okay, my life is over. This is it. That's it for
Mm,
me. I'm gonna, in your head, you do think of. I was young though. I was 24, so I didn't really have much of a life. Like I wasn't married yet. I had no kids. I was kind of like a not a loser, but I was like I had no direction. Like I was lost. I was neither here nor there. I kind of floundered around a bit. I was screwing off, and like so I didn't really have and that was the sad thing though, is that I might die next year and I have nothing to show for. I have no legacy. I've made no impact on this earth. I am an arrogant person. I'm ignorant. I need to you know I'm lost for words now, but I need to if I'm going to die, I want to leave an impact. And
yeah.
it was sad that I wouldn't. And then you start doing the, okay, God, if you let me live, I promise, I swear to God, I'll never drink, I'll never swear, I'll never smoke. I've done all those things since, and then some. Um, but when some people hear that word, they just shut down, right? They hear cancer, and it's just instant. They can't even fathom that they're going to live because it does take the lives away of many people.
Yeah.
And I was the exact same way. But then also, I had these like flashes of scenes in my head, which I do write about. These weird moments in time that I remembered, and now on that day, it made sense why those things were always important to me, or why they were always in my subconscious. But then you go through your treatment, and then you get the 3 month clear, then the 6 month clear, then the 1 year, and now I'm scared to live or I was scared to live because, well, it's always like the survivorship. No one teaches you how to be a survivor because,
Yeah.
I didn't know many survivors then. This was 2001, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know one person personally that was a survivor. I knew one person, the cyclist guy on TV, the Lance Armstrong guy. That was the only guy I
Oh,
knew. And then he turned out to be a liar. So I was like, okay, this is great. My only guy, and now he's a liar, and everybody hates him. So who there's no literature on survivorship, and no one teaches you how to be one. And so now it's different. Now there's all the books, and more people, thankfully are surviving. But back then there was nothing. There was no Google. There was no YouTube. There was nothing. So
yeah.
there's no social media. So I really was alone. I really felt alone, and I didn't know what to do or where to go. So I kind of just sort of was grounded. So for me, I had already gone through my own
Mhm.
pandemic because I was home alone. I couldn't go anywhere because of the germs, and I was very
Yeah.
isolated. And I isolated myself, but people did ghost me. People, just don't want to hang out with you anymore. And when I was young, right? So I was like, it
Yeah.
was at that party fun stage, and then the phone stopped ringing and people stopped coming over. And I would call you, or I would call a couple people, or we'd like make plans to go out, and it was very weird and very tense. And they'd see me drinking coffee, and they're like, I remember one friend of mine. She's like, "Oh, are you allowed to drink that?" I was like, yeah, I think so. And she goes, oh, I don't know. I thought you'd be eating. Oh no, then we went out for burgers first. We went out for burgers and fries. This is hilarious. She goes, "Oh, aren't you supposed to be eating steamed vegetables?" I go, listen, I got cancer, but your BMI index is a little high, so maybe we should both be. You shouldn't be. Listen, if I'm eating steamed vegetables, so are you. Like, and she didn't see the irony in that. She didn't see the like, like it's like
Yep.
it was everything became about, oh, cancer. And so then when I would meet with people, we talked about everything but the cancer, like everything, which is weird.
Mm,
I looked sick, right? Like you could tell I was not well. So it was just a really weird time. And then it's like, oh, it's over. And my family, the way I was raised, they're not emotionally available people, so just don't talk about it. Pretend it, put it behind you. Pretend it never happened. How am I supposed to do that when I've, when I just went through that? Like I can't put it behind me. Even, I've been sitting on it for 20 years. And
yeah.
even now talking about it, because when we did the chapter, I had to go back in those moments in time. I had to relive it. And it was
Mhm.
kind of scary sometimes. And I didn't want to, there's a couple times where I was going to pull out. I think already. I was going to pull out. I was like, you know what? Instead of 5 authors, you're going to have 4. I'm really sorry. Because I'm not ready for this. I can't do
Yeah.
this. But you just have to dig in and just,
Mhm.
again, the mind games, and just talk to yourself and just talk. And you guys were great too, because you and all the other authors, because we were all going through the same thing. So,
100%. Just
and
different stories,
different
different
stories.
experiences. That's it.
Yeah, the trauma that's there, and that's part of the survivorship, and that's what's makes me scared of living sometimes. Is like, you just, it's the survivor guilt. You feel this sense of like you have to prove yourself all the time,
Mm,
because you got the second chance and that person didn't. Why did I get the second chance? And then, but then that goes deeper. So then you got to dig deeper. Where's all this coming from? Because not everybody who has cancer deals with survivor guilt. You know,
right.
people that have had heart attacks or car accidents, not all of them deal with survivor guilt, but some of them do. So if you do, now you got to go deeper. And that's where it gets really dark and deep. But it's all part of the healing, and it's all part of the being authentic and making connections. Because I know if I'm going through it, I know for sure there's got to be someone else going through it, or somebody else that will go through this. So if they see something like this, they'll be like, you know what? Okay. Because I didn't have anyone to turn to. I had no literature. The beautiful thing about technology now is that there's so much resources. There's so many ways you could get help. You won't feel alone,
Hmm.
no matter what the trauma is.
Yeah.
So did I answer your question? I feel like I just didn't answer your question.
No, you absolutely did. I love it. It's part of
This
your
is coffee.
experience.
This is strictly coffee. I was gonna put Bailey's, but I was like, you know what? I gotta work tomorrow, so
And this is what I mean. I'm here laughing. I have goosebumps. And, one of the things that I was just thinking about is that when it comes to these moments, these
Mhm.
pieces of trauma, and I can just imagine, especially being more so back in the day, it's different now. You also have a different community around you. So, there's such a different experience happening as well. But there is that comfort that people don't have to hold space. It's really hard to, especially if you're not used to it, hold space for someone who is experiencing some sort of trauma. We almost do it not from a place of, we don't want to be around you anymore. And it's more so such a selfish thing where
Right,
it comes from a place of, I feel uncomfortable. I
and
don't
that's
know how to support
right.
you in this.
That's right. So hopefully
Yeah.
this will help not only people that are going through it, but even like a caregiver or someone close to them.
Yeah.
Because people maybe just didn't know what to say to me, or like you said, it's uncomfortable for them because it brings back a painful memory for them.
Mm,
So that it was more about them than me. But at the time, I didn't know. I
of
wasn't
course.
aware. I wasn't aware, and then I got all for years. I was very resentful and a lot of anger. Then I got angry after, and then
Mm,
depressed. Went through like major episodes of depression, like up and down. But now I understand though that I think people did mean well, but they just didn't know how, or they couldn't, and and this is why. And so hopefully this not only will help people that are going through something, but
mm,
their the circle around them, that, you know, that you sometimes you have to be selfless to be the caregiver. It's not about you and your fear. If it brings back a bad memory for you, you need to work on that because your friend or your loved one needs your help. So it's kind of, you know, it's a helpful, this is has been great for me because I'm helping, I feel like I'm helping both sides because I'm
Yeah.
offering two perspectives to it.
Absolutely. And that's what we can always do is always it's always perspective, and it's always I think it's about being in a place too, not being afraid to ask for support as well. Like I'm sure that is something I was also very surprised going through and learning more and more about your journey and your experience through Collective Voices, and we were actually going through the writing process. I think I was most surprised how there was a big, not necessarily a fear, maybe it's not a fear, but there was a big story around people are going to expect this of me. People know me as Natalie, the
Yes.
funny one.
Yeah.
This is how people know me. And we know you. This naturally shines through, but
Yeah.
there was such a big, massive part of your life that I can't believe a lot of people didn't know about.
They don't know. Yeah, like people say all the time, "Oh my," and I don't try to be funny. This is just who I am. I will blurt out inappropriate things, or my humor sometimes is very dark, especially for a teacher. So, but people say all this, "Oh my god, you're so funny. You must be happy all the time." No, fuck no. I'm like I can be miserable,
Mhm.
like a lot of the time. You know, I get angry a lot, or I have anger management issues. Maybe it's because I'm the firstborn. I think a lot of the firstborns we're fucked up people because our parents messed us up. And I told my kids, you know, I said to my kids, you know, I can't promise you that you won't need therapy. My goal is to not have you need as much as I had because my our parents, but again, it's that immigrant mentality. They weren't even aware. It was a different mentality, different type of parenting, which had its positives because now we've gone too far the other way. So
Yeah.
we need more of a balance. But people are surprised if I say, like, if I cry or if I get upset or emotional. Some people I don't think like that side of me because my role is to be the funny one. And
Mhm.
I will say this 100% sincerely. Most of the funny people, you know, the most people that are laughing on the outside, they seem like nothing's bothering them, or they seem like they have it all put together. Those are probably the ones that are struggling the most because they have this image to uphold, or even if they try to reach out, no one would take them seriously. So that was my fear. Like you said, I'm going to write this chapter. I didn't know how to approach it. There are little sprinkles of humor because that's just how I am. But
Yeah.
I'm like, I wonder if people are going to not like it or they won't be receptive because they're expecting this comedy piece.
Mhm.
And while that might come maybe one day, because I have a lot of ideas for like funny, you know, funny sketches and skits, this isn't funny though. Like, but then again, at the same time though, I do laugh at inappropriate times, like because a lot of funny memories did come from the waiting rooms in the hospitals. Like,
Mm.
you know, like sometimes you go to a funeral, I see a lot of things that make me laugh, and I chuckle to myself because I'm like, why are they making a scene? They hated each other. Why is she crying? They couldn't fucking stand. They haven't seen each other in 20 years, and now they're doing the show with the wailing and the why are there flowers everywhere? Like he never bought her flowers ever. Now,
Yeah.
so sometimes when I go, my mother gives me the look. You know, she's like, Natalie, no, because I think it's funny. Like it's a little humorous to me. So I've
Mhm.
you know, but I as funny and as I have been through so much that most people would be very shocked to know what I went through, you know.
Yeah.
And again though, I think that's what that you know that's where the light happiness comes from. It comes from those
Yeah.
dark moments. You need the, I think I even write about it. You need one, you can't have one without the other. So
100%.
that's life. And I notice that the people that have like the type of life where it's always straight and like
Mhm.
linear, those are boring people, right? Like the most interesting ones are the ones that have like the fucked up lives, right? Because you go up, you go down, you go up, you go down. Because
Yeah.
that's life. There's always going to be something coming at you. There's always something you're gonna have to duck from. Then you
Yeah.
rebound, then you come down, and that's just the way it is. And
Yeah. I think it's no matter what we make both moments mean. Those really high highs and those low moments as well, right? We're going to go through them. We're not saying there's nothing to say like don't feel what you're feeling because
Yeah.
it's so true and it's so valid. It's just, there's so much in it. It's the picking up and moving on and moving forward, not necessarily moving on, but still moving forward in your life. It's even through the things that are thrown at you, it's being able to get back up and say, you know what? I'm going to continue to do the damn thing and not give up or not let the thing that has happened to us be the thing that defines our entire life. Because I can only imagine what how life would look differently if your whole story revolved around Natalie, the one who had cancer. You are so much more than that experience. And that's how we all are. We are
Right.
so much more than these experiences that happen to us. But
That's right.
sometimes we make it and we surround our entire being around it and it consumes our world.
Right.
And I say that in the sense of sometimes it consumes our world and not for the better
That's
and
right.
not for the good. And so I think I also just want to acknowledge and commend you because of the way you've navigated a moment, a chapter in your story, because that's what this is. It's a moment. Yes, you've experienced it. It's a chapter in your life story.
That's right.
It's not the entire thing though.
No. And who
And
knows
you're
what's
also using it.
That's right, and who knows what's to come? It's exactly what you said. I just had a conversation with a friend of mine. She just went through a divorce. First time she got married, she went through a divorce, and she I'm a failure, and this is my life's over. I go look at it from another way. It was a defining moment in your life, but it doesn't define you. It's just it just didn't work out. It wasn't meant to be, and and it was easier because they didn't have children, so they were able to part much more easily, and now she's actually living a great life, and so is he. So at the time, though, she's like, I'm a failure. This is, I go, you're not going to be known as the divorced woman. Like,
No,
it's a defining moment. It's sad, and it's unfortunate, it's disappointing, and
of course.
all the things. Okay, yes. But at the same time, though, look at it as from the positive. You're not meant to be together, and this is just part of your story, and now they've gone on, and their lives now are so much more better. So she through whatever, she DM'd me, how's it going on, and she goes, you're right, like, because now her life is amazing. So I think that's what happens. We get stuck with that identity. Oh, I'm a cancer survivor. Oh my god, that's all people are gonna see me as when they see me. Or I'm the one that had the pregnancy loss, or I'm the one that with the parental. I don't talk to my dad, or there's all that drama. There's all these things, but that's just, again, just part of it. But you know that's just, like, if you have a problem with it, that's your problem,
Yeah.
not my
You're
problem.
absolutely right. We do get stuck in the identity of
Yes.
things. We get so stuck and it's actually and in ways that stops us from moving, from living, you know?
Right.
And I think that's the biggest thing too is everything that can be looked at, like everything that happens can have perspective, can always have, I always see the flip side of things. And it's not, this is not coming from this like optimistic, rah rah,
No.
life is great, be
Yeah.
positive. No, that
No.
is coming from this genuine place of I have gone through my own things as well.
Of course, everyone has.
I have
Everyone.
never, I say this, I talk about this even with my, my journey and my story of my parents and my dad leaving my mom at and me and my sisters and my mom at such a young age and honestly going through very similar, being angry and all of that. And
Angry,
yet,
just bitter, and like,
oh
oh,
my,
that's nice. No, her, oh,
bitter
look
was my middle name for a certain period of time, 100%. So,
oh, look at her.
but
We got to, but that's, again, but then what happens is people start keeping score, right? So I don't like to share, because then it's like, oh, well, you have it bad. Oh, what am I supposed to say? And there's that keeping score. And I think that's where we lose the connections with people, because I'm not telling you the story to, okay, can you tell your story? I'll tell my story. Okay, oh, my story is worse than your story, so now you're going to sit and listen to me for the
yeah,
next hour. And that's where friendships and relationships fizzle, because
100%.
it's not about keeping scores. But listen, this was really shit. And I'm not suggesting cancer was like, this was awesome. This, like, it wasn't like I was at the hospital. This is amazing. Every day was a nightmare. It was like the same torturous day over and over.
Yeah.
Now I look back and I say, oh, you know what? I'm so grateful that happened to me. Because if that hadn't happened to me, I'd still be a loser. We wouldn't be talking. I would. I don't know what my life would be. So now I look back and I say, you know, that was like an amazing thing. God, he gave that experience to me to shake me up and to not scare life out, but scare life in. Even though, ironically, I was afraid to live. Um, but when you're going through it, you don't appreciate the gift that's coming because
Mm,
because it is shit. Like divorce is shit, and illness is shit. Job loss, it's all shit, right? But when you get through the other side, with patience and give yourself
mm,
some grace, it's a process. It's like a butterfly in a cocoon,
yeah.
which is the other the children's book thing I have coming, because you have to go through that process, and it's hard and it's scary and it's dark and it's arduous, but it has to be. The more it is, the darker it is, the more light.
Yeah.
It's almost like like a thing, like the further back you get, you get pulled back, the
The
more you.
slingshot?
Yeah, I'm not a science. I teach language. I don't do fucking science. I don't know. You know that thing that what's that, physics? I don't know, that thing where you pull and you shoot,
The slingshot, no?
whatever. But like, there's I'm sure there's a word,
There's
like
a
a thing.
better name for it, but I'm calling it the slingshot.
What Isaac Newton, whatever he did, like that thing you pull back, and then the harder you pull, the resistance, and then it'll, the harder, the tighter, it'll shoot you further.
Yeah.
And so, I tell people, I know this is shit. I know this is hard. My best friend is going through her own cancer battle this
Mm,
year, and she had a stroke a couple years before, and I tell her, I know it's shit. You're gonna have your days. I still have my days. I still have my days, but it is what it is, and you just now, instead of like trying to forget about it and leave it behind, well, put it behind you. It's like I see it as I carry it with me, and I carry it
mm,
with me, and I keep going forward. And some days it does feel heavy, and so I stop, and then I do. Now I know how to other better ways to cope, because I wasn't coping the last 20 years. I was, just bad behaviors and just negative ways of dealing, because I didn't have the outlet. But now the writing has presented itself, and I'm shedding away, I'm cutting back those layers of fear and all that, and like just not afraid to share and just do so. I could never have done something like this even a couple years ago. There's no a
yeah.
podcast you're gonna put online. Oh my god, no way.
Yeah.
Look, now I have to get I need makeup, because you're just so afraid of what people are gonna say about you. Because I was bullied as a kid too, so my fear has always been that the bullies are gonna find this and they're gonna like rip it apart.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I don't care if they do, because it's not about them now, right? It really isn't.
Yeah. It's not. And the thing that I just keep thinking about is just, or the thing that keeps like screaming at me is like, is its purpose. It's using your story with a purpose. It's taking the shit, taking the stuff that you have gone through and using it and doing something with it. I you know what? If I didn't go through my own experience and my own journey with my parents, and this is what I mean, like you can look at it in a different light when you're on the other side of it. When you've kind of gone through the emotions and you've moved through it, then you can see it. Then it will make sense.
That's
It's not going to make sense in the moment. It's going to make
right. No,
sense after,
after.
years down the road. We wouldn't
That's
be here if
no.
my parents never divorced. My life would be
Yeah.
totally different. And I still, to this day, I will say, I will see them in the same room and I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Like, it just doesn't
No,
make sense to me in my mind. And he has a beautiful life and she has a beautiful life. And because of the situation, I have a beautiful life. Like, it's just,
that's it. That's it. It's like my grandfather says,
yeah.
that he has a garden. He still does his garden. He says the best garden. You know why these plants are the best? Is because I put the most shit in the dirt. Like the more fertilizer I have, the better the plants. You need the shit to make it grow better. And
Mm,
that's life. Like that's what I said before. Like sometimes I find people that have these sort of linear. I find them boring. And I mean, no offense. I just like I find that I can't connect. I connect more to people that have that those bumpy sort of that or it's not such a linear trajectory. It's a very up and down, up and down. I find that I have more connections with you. Like, oh my God, your life is a Dr. Phil season. So is mine. Like, oh my God, like my life isn't even a Dr. Phil episode. It's a season of Dr.
Yeah.
Phil. And it's like, oh my God, me too. It's like, and I feel that the more messed up a person is, the more hardship, the more struggle,
Mm.
the more I gravitate more towards them. I find them less boring because I
Yeah.
find that I just learn something from them, and I find them inspiring.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I think there's I will it's I get exactly what you're saying, and the other side that I'm thinking of it too. Again, I always am like perspective.
yeah,
I think those that we feel like are boring because we can't connect to them is because there's the fear of them even sharing the hardship. They can't
you're
even
right.
share the
That's right.
hardship. They're
But
so
and that's
afraid
right.
to put it
You know,
out
I know,
there.
and because I'm then I, yeah, you're right. Because then I'm like, maybe they're not sharing. Maybe it is linear because that's what they're choosing to reveal. Because maybe they're not comfortable with sharing something because everyone has something, and
Thousand percent.
everyone's gone through some. Everyone struggles with an insecurity or a doubt or really like intense emotional, internal, that voice in your head. I think I even talk about that voice in the chapter. She's still there. Like I still talk to her. I've been learning to stand up to her, but we all
Mhm.
have that insecurity, that seed that was planted even before we were aware, that grows in our mind, and it affects our behavior as adults. So my goal, the more I talk to you, the more I do things like this. It's like I rip out another one of those roots, those rotted roots. I rip it right out, and I think I will always be weeding and ripping out roots because this, is just so deep for me. But again, if someone watches this and sees this and doesn't feel so alone or so isolated, and then they feel compelled to maybe just reach out to someone and talk to them, or not be so reserved or so hidden, then that's a good thing. I think that's what's lacking in the world, is that people are so disconnected,
Mm.
even though we have all these means to be connected. We're disconnected, like we have all these phones, all these like ways to connect, but then I missed you, or I couldn't get a hold of you. How can you not get a hold of me? There's a bazillion
Ways.
platforms we could talk, like, but because people aren't ready, or they're not comfortable, or they haven't been taught how, or again,
Mhm.
just afraid of how they're going to be received because they're the strong one, or they're the funny one, or
Yeah.
they're the whatever identity they have to feel they have to serve. So, you're right, I shouldn't judge people that I shouldn't call them boring.
There's stories, but we all have our stories, no
I
matter
swear, this,
how it
this
looks
is
like.
coffee. I do promise this is coffee. Next time I'll put something else.
Oh, geez. I'm like, this has just been so good and
Oh,
beautiful. And I feel like with where you were going in what you were just talking about as well, what would kind of put a bow on this is if you can read a part of your chapter that we
okay.
talked about. I think it'd be beautiful for you to read it out loud because it is just, oh, it's
Okay.
such a good reminder that we all need to hear. So I'd love for you to read it.
Oh, now? Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Uh, okay, so my chapter, this is the last page. And basically, yeah, I guess, oh, okay, I'll start reading it now. Okay. Okay. Most people probably wouldn't choose hardship, but when it grabs you, hold tight. Challenges come for us all, whether by choice or circumstance. While difficult to appreciate at the time, those dark troubles will lend itself to the most profound moments of self illumination if you just get out of the way. Take it from me. Don't wait for the lady in the white coat to learn this the hard way. Don't wait until you're chained to an IV drip. If you have something you have always wanted to do or say, get up now. Do it before the universe pushes you. If something is keeping you awake at night, this is nature's way of politely asking, what the fuck are you waiting for? Maybe the lady in the white coat was put in front of me so these words could be written for you. And a side note, I am still a work in progress myself. I will always be, and that is okay. Character and faith, where there is your fear, there is your task. Faith over fear, let it go. Tell what you have to tell. Three beautiful girls call me mom. I have cried inside the Sistine Chapel, just waiting for Bono to get in touch with me.
I love it.
Right.
Oh.
When I was diagnosed, I that was the thing. I was like, oh my God, I'm never gonna have kids. I'm never gonna go to Italy. And then another thing that popped in, oh my God, I'm never gonna meet Bono. I'm never like, this is what I thought about. I was like, I'm never gonna meet him. This is so unfair. And then here we are. And I've checked a few things off the boxes, but I'm still waiting for Bono. If he could hook me up for some free tickets.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's again, this pretty much sums up what we've been talking about. If you
Mhm.
just get out of your own way, and like I said, I'm still guilty of it. I still work on it every day. Even today, I was so excited to be doing this, but then I was like, okay, what am I going to talk about? Oh my God, look, I have this pimple here. What are people going to say? And I look bloated. I had the flu on the weekend, and but I'm like, hey, don't let the ego take over.
Mm,
You're just talking to Ashley Ann. You're just hanging out with your friend.
that's
You're
it.
just talking and just have fun
Yeah.
and
And
relax.
that's I think such a big piece of just of life and doing the things that we want to do. We allow the ego to take over, and trust me when I say, like, I am equally in that spot too. I deal with it on a regular fucking basis. Okay? Like,
There.
I promise you that everyone that you probably even put on a pedestal, that you're like, wow, their life is not even just their life. They are just so inspiring and they are up to such great things and they are doing such great things in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I promise you, they still deal with some sort of little inner critic
Mm-hmm.
that they have to move through. We
Yeah.
are all in that space. It's just, it's that like piece of feeling the fear and doing it anyway. That
That's
has become like my freaking motto. And I think when you, not necessarily when you yourself have been faced with potentially death, I think for myself, like, I was not that I was faced with it, but I lost someone at such a young age, and it shook my world in the sense that I'm witnessing someone at such a young age who was taken from this world, and I'm like, I can't let this life go to waste. And there's that aspect too. And if we can kind of dip into that and just hold that when we're feeling the fear,
mm-hmm.
we can really, like, it's like Mel Robbins says, 5 seconds. Give yourself that 5 second countdown and do the thing.
Just do it.
Do the
Because
thing.
time is very mean. Time's cruel. The time will pass anyway,
Yeah.
and then you're gonna regret. And I don't want to get to the end of my life eventually, and I feel like I've been given an extension, and I don't want to waste that time, but I was for so long. But then, you know what, it's because I wasn't ready, and again, God will put you, or he'll put the things you need in front of you when you're ready. I wasn't ready even a couple years ago. But now I feel, like I said, the more we talk, the more I do this, the more I put myself out there, the more what that one little step is now leading to all these other steps.
Mm-hmm.
But fear is a really powerful emotion, and guilt. Those two together are
Yeah,
they're a wicked combo,
they
and
are.
it's just, you have to just, like I said, the more I talk to you, the more I do things like this, the more we connect. It's like I pull one more
Right.
of those, but there's always like weeds, you pull one, and then there's always one that crops up. So you're always a work in progress, and that's okay. That's okay. That's life. That's why we're here. Okay,
A
so
100%. And it's the embracing of that too, that you're never going to land and it's all going to be put together. There's
no,
always going to be the weeding, the pulling out the roots, because
yeah,
you're going to get down to a layer and down to a core, and there's going to be more. Like,
more.
and
That's right.
but that's also the most beautiful thing about life as well. Like,
Yeah,
looking at it again, perspective. You can either be like, "Oh, here I go again. I thought I was done," or "Here we go again.
that's it.
Let's do the thing."
That's it. And
Yeah.
it's just being grateful, having more of a grateful attitude, just gratitude. I think we need more of that. And it's these experiences, these hardships, that allow us to build the empathy
Mm,
and the compassion for others. Because, I do understand when I see someone struggling. I truly do understand what you're feeling because I've been there. I know, I've been through all these little different things, and like I said, my life is like a country song, some days. But that's why when people talk, I truly do empathize and sympathize with what you're feeling, um, and we need a lot more of that and less judgment.
Mm-hmm.
But we are our own worst
Critic.
critics. If I just got out of my way 20 years ago, then maybe I wouldn't have had to have gone all the things that I went through. But like I said, when you're ready, that's when things happen, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just so grateful and excited for what's coming. Um,
What is coming?
what is coming? What is coming?
What is coming?
Oh, I don't know. Like just like more. I'm just putting it out there. I want to like carve a career. Can I be a writer as a career? Is this like a thing I could actually do and just be out like give a TED talk? I would love to give a TED talk and
Ooh.
just like just talk about hardship and overcoming adversity and or survivor guilt. Survivor guilt is a real thing for many people, not cancer, but other illnesses or
Mm-hmm.
accidents or traumatic events. It's a real thing. I didn't even know what it was, but now I do, which is part of mental health and post traumatic stress disorder. So maybe that is something. I just got my level 2 Reiki. I'm a Reiki certified Reiki practitioner. So I'm looking into sort of holistic modalities and going down that avenue. I had Reiki done to me when I was ill, but I didn't know what it was.
Wow.
Right, but now I understand what it was. My mom just took me to this guy. When you're sick, you'll do whatever. You'll go and do whatever. You'll try anything. You'll exhaust all the options. So there was this guy, but he was very helpful. So,
Yeah.
um, but it was Reiki. I didn't know at the time, and I was doing visualization exercises and manifesting and journaling. Now it's trendy, but back then everyone thought I was a weirdo. All right, because why are you doing that? I used to take ice cubes and watch them melt, and I used to say that is the tumor melting. Now there's all these
Wow.
self-help books about it, and that's what I'm saying. If I had come out maybe 20 years ago and started talking about this, I could have been, I could have had my Alfa Romeo right now. But
Never
that's
too late.
never too late.
Never too late.
So just like
100%.
yeah, putting myself out there, more writing projects, more types of experiences like this, more podcasts, more
Mm-hmm.
talking, more connecting,
Mm.
more writing. So the chapter has sort of birthed another, not a memoir, I guess, or like short stories, or I don't know. It hasn't really. It's taken form, but it's not really officially. I don't know what to call it. Short story, memoir, children's book. There's two children's books that I have, and I'm just working with trying to get an illustrator and trying to get that out. The Reiki and just talking and connecting and I don't. I just and just whatever. Like I don't know. We'll see
Yeah.
what where I am, where what happens.
Yeah, I'm so excited. And what I'll do too is I will leave links down below. One, first and foremost, for people to be able to just simply connect with you and stay, and also be able to reach out to you as well if there's anything that resonated um, with your journey and with your story. I encourage people to reach out. It is, as creatives, it is such a beautiful thing when you can receive a message, receive something. And I know it takes a lot of courage to put yourself out there, to message a stranger, but on the other end, we love receiving that as creatives, as
Yeah,
writers. We live for receiving that. That is such fuels for our souls. So if there is anything that you feel resonated that you want to reach out to Natalie, I encourage you to. And also for people just to stay up to date with everything you have going on. And if they want to reach out to you to purchase a copy of your book, to breathe again, I'd love for everyone to connect with you as well. And I just appreciate you so much for coming on, sharing your story and your journey and your also your words of wisdom as well, and your experience through everything and your perspective. I'm so honored to have you and to have our friendship as well.
oh, thank you, Ashley, and thank you, everyone. And yeah, this was great. And we can, yeah, get together. We can meet up, and we'll have something alcoholic, preferably next time.
Oh gosh, I love it. Well, thanks to everyone who has tuned in.
Everyone,
We'll
I
see
wish
you.
everyone just a beautiful, 2024. And I just, you too, Ashley, and thank you so much. And yeah, anyone, if you want to reach out, please, would love to talk to anyone that needs a friend or needs someone to talk to, or if you need someone to vent to, just reach out anytime. I would love it.
Mm, I love that. Thank you. And we'll next week on
Bye.
another episode. So much love.